All right, normally I would do this on my other channel, but I got a strike on that one for just replaying the hearing, the congressional hearing that RFK Jr. was part of. So I just figured I'm going to go live here. I do want to talk about two very important things. The first thing is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just did a town hall, about 1 hour, with Sean Hannity. Wasn't really a town hall. It was pretty much just RFK, just Sean Hannity asking RFK a bunch of questions. I'm going to play this little clip here because this was hilarious. This is one of the favorite ones. There's obviously some clips that I can't play because, that virus, the thing. But this one is really good. This is about 4 minutes.
We've got thousands of people in here. I can't believe you all came. Thank you all for coming. Welcome back to Hannity. We continue now with Democratic presidential candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. I want to go back, and this drives me nuts, because I've been making the case that our current president, I don't think he knows today's Tuesday. He could not sit with me as you are and have this conversation, in my view. I think he is physically weak and cognitively a mess. And nobody wants to say it except a few of us. I want you to look at this tape and tell me if you think he's fit for the job. Take a look.
Let's go lick the world. We cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem and Joan Shengang. I'm going to pronounce right. Shanga Kawawa. Ban on transgender Americans.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's great
to have you. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here. We'll have reaction.
I met alone with him, just he and I, and a simultaneous interpreter 68 times, 68 hours, 68 times, more than 68 hours. All right. God save the Queen, man.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We really appreciate it, and we love you. Thank you.
I might add, if I didn't, I'd be sleeping alone. You have to explain. I better explain that. Some don't know what I'm talking about. My wife's a Philly girl. All right, where are we going? Well, we're going to win, and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean. By the way, I met with who are those guys that fly over shortly? You heard of them, haven't you?
Okay. Do you believe that he is physically, mentally, cognitively strong enough to lead our country? This world is a dangerous place. Robert Kennedy Jr., you know that this is a dangerous place. Is he cognitively strong enough to be your president?
Well, he's never been very good with words.
All right, you get an A+ for that answer. Is he up to the job? First of all, let me ask, how many of you here think he is not up to the job? Let me hear. Now, I know that there's a reluctance for politicians, and you're a Democratic Party guy. You said that at the censorship hearing where they censored you. And you've devoted your life to things you believe in, and it's probably hard for you to say that. But do you really think he's up to the job?
No, but I'm not reluctant to say that for partisan reasons, Sean. No,
Okay.
what I've tried to do during this campaign is avoid personal attacks on people. I will say whether he's up to it or not, whether he's making his own decisions, the decisions that are coming out of the White House are bad decisions.
Right.
And, the Democratic Party does not censor people, in my experience. We're not the party of war. We're not the party of the neocons dictating foreign policy. We're the party of the middle class, and we're the party of working people. And that's not where the party is anymore.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January
Well, maybe this will help. Thank you. I appreciate that, Catherine. So I was just saying, I hope that you feel better. And one day I do want to get you on to talk about COVID. One day we are going to talk about that, because I'd love to hear your thoughts about how it was back then, the whole origins, what we knew back then compared to where we are now. And that is definitely something that I want to have you on to discuss here at some point later on, once your voice feels better, for sure. And what I was saying was that I didn't, when I started researching RFK Jr. for this book here that I'm currently writing, and he is an author. He's written many books starting back in the 80s. His first book was about a judge, but his he's written several books, as everybody probably knows, about vaccines and about AIDS and about Dr. Fauci, about HIV, and about the correlation between the vaccines and health risks and health issues. But he does have a new book coming out on September 12th, 2023, about Wuhan, and it will be it will be. He did not have a stroke. The reason why his voice is so shaky, and I wish I knew. I probably have it here somewhere in my notes here, Catherine, but there is a reason, and he questions whether it was related to the vaccines that he had taken. So he says at about age 42 is when the voice thing started happening. He's also said recently that his voice, he's been going to Tokyo, and he's been doing some things that have made his voice better. So it was even worse. And he will even tell you he cannot even listen to his own voice. He will never listen to any interviews that he has done. And that's really sad. And I know, Catherine, I've talked to you about this in the past, about my speech problem and everything. And, I try not to focus on that, but sometimes I can hear in his speeches, and especially when he's being questioned, that's when the stutter really comes out for me, is when you really want to say something and you just can't, or you just can't get those words out. So the struggle that he has, I don't want to mispronounce what it is, but it is a very serious issue that he has been working through, and he does believe that it may be related to the vaccines, the 20 vaccines a year that he was taking. And I know I have it here somewhere. I just have so many different notes, but I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is one of the biggest things. And when we talk about the voice, his voice compared to Biden's voice, it's like, well, RFK, you can see it. He wants to say things. He's trying to say things, and he just can't. And for people that have a stutter, we can relate to that. And sometimes you have to dance around words, and what you're saying, you can't articulate it as well as you can if you just write it down on paper or something, right? But so I can see some of those stressors that he does have when dealing with his voice issue, which is, for him, is a really big issue. And like I said, it used to be a lot worse. Years ago, when he started doing a podcast, I tried to listen to him, and it was difficult. It was very difficult because of the voice. And obviously, if you read his books, you obviously are not going to have that issue. But reading his books gives you a very good idea of kind of just how much research this guy has done. And he is a lawyer, and he's been fighting a long, long time against corruption. And one day I'm gonna find this, because once I tell you what this is, Catherine, I'm sure you'll probably know exactly what this is. But it is a medical thing that he does think is tied to the vaccines that he took. He just mentioned it the other day. That's why I'm just flipping through my notes here quickly, because he just talked about this, and he's talked about this several times. You know what? I'm going to look this up, because this is a big thing. And, let me say, why does RFK talk like that. Let's see what comes up. I know you can't see the screen here. Okay. Okay, Catherine, have you ever heard of the spasmodic dysphonia? Let me, why is this not? Let me share my screen here. This is what it is. This is what it's called, spasmodic dysphonia. That is what he has, that he got at about, I think, at age 42 or so. So I don't know anything about it. So again, if you do have any information, anything that may be helpful, please. I know since you can't speak, drop some knowledge in the chat for us if you can. But that is what happened. I believe he said around age 42, and it's really sad because I'm the same way. Like I can't go back and listen to any of the podcasts, the David Crowley or anything like that. It's very hard for me to go back, even though I do thousands of replays on the Crowley case. It's very hard for me to go back and listen to myself. And that's why I enjoy writing too. And I'm sure that could be a part of the reason why RFK enjoys writing, because you can say whatever you want and you can articulate it the best way. And there's no excuses for it. Oh, thank you, my friend. So, yeah. So that is that, and I'm thank you for bringing that up too, because that is something that he has had to deal with for a long time, and running for president. And definitely, you can tell, like, who would you rather listen to? Speak. Would you rather listen to RFK with the issues that he has, or would you rather listen to Joe Biden with the issues that he clearly has? Ooh, which are bad. In that clip that I just played, you can clearly see how bad it really is. And it's a no-brainer for a lot of us here. So that is just one thing I wanted to play there, because RFK just did an amazing job on the sham Sham Hannity show, pretty much, because I'm not a Sean Hannity fan. Not a Fox News fan either, but the interview was really good. I really did enjoy that interview. 40 minutes, 50 minutes. I'll try to put it up. I'm sure, because it's going to get a strike if you put up the whole thing. That's why I just have a couple clips. One of the best clips at the end is where RFK Jr. talks about his uncle's death and his dad's death and who could be involved in that. And it is so good. I think it's still uploading on my channel. It should be ready here in about 15 minutes. But that clip is really good. It's about a 6 or 7 minute clip. And let me just go through some of the things that RFK Jr. does talk about. And then I also want to talk about the accusation that RFK Jr. hates the Jewish people, and that he believes that COVID was targeted towards the Jewish people. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Catherine, or anybody else who was listening or watching this. But what he's basically saying is that it is possible that it may target certain people. And I think that's what actually got the strike from my other channel, because all I did was play. I did talk about stuff too, but when I played it's based on the live hearing that RFK Jr. did in front of Congress on July 20th. That's all it was what he was saying. And so I don't know if I got the strike. Usually when I get a strike, they will show me what part of it, caused that strike, or et cetera, et cetera. This was a 5-hour video that I did that just got taken down. I don't even have the option to even download it to back it up or anything. So thank God that I was able to move it to my Rumble channel, Greg Fernandez Jr. The 5-hour show is there. It's a long show because Noah joins me and we talk about the Bohemian Grove. We talk about other things too. But about 2 or 3 hours of it is just focused on the RFK hearing on censorship. And the hearing began with them trying to censor RFK on censorship. It's just so crazy. But the Democratic Party is just not, it's just very, very interesting the way that they are treating RFK. And one might make the argument that RFK is draining the other side of the swamp. with what he is doing and exposing the corruption within his own party, and at the same time bringing people together. He's crossing over in ways that, I believe, maybe a lot of people may disagree with me, but I believe that Trump has crossed over in ways for voters. RFK is doing that, but in a very it's similar, but it's not. And I don't want to criticize Trump too much, but the way that RFK Jr. is doing this with this crossover is something that I have not seen, because it's more of a gentle approach. It's more of a peaceful approach. It's like having two grandparents. Both are very, you love them both. They're very strong. They're very wise. One is a little more boisterous and one is a little more, timid. But their messages are almost the same. And you wouldn't even know it, because you just think, well, there's, grandpa, my loud grandpa, and there is my timid grandpa, and they're both wise, and I love them both, and they both make great points. That's kind of the way that I see both of these guys. It's just crazy, pretty interesting. Catherine says here, yes, his larynx spasms when he's talking. It is uncontrollable, neurological, and okay, yeah, that's, I mean, it, to me, it doesn't get any worse than that. At least I can kind of fumble through it and fumble through these things, but this guy can't. And you can see it in the eyes. You can see his eyes. He's trying to articulate these points, these awesome points, and just really, really struggling. So it's sad to see, but it's awesome to see that he is trying to overcome that. And that is a big thing for me. It reminds me, you can overcome these things. You can still do these podcasts. You can still do these shows. This guy is running for president with this speech problem, and he is polling, if you believe in the polls, and I really don't, but he is polling at about 20%. Apparently, when you're polling at that level in this country, within the next couple weeks or so, if he's still polling at that level, he is going to get the Secret Service to protect him. And that's what he really needs. When I watched that speech and I watched him on Sean Hannity today, that is exactly what I thought, is like, man, this guy needs protection. And I know other people on my other channel have watched the videos, like, we got to pray for him. We got to pray for him, because we don't need another dead Kennedy, right? We have enough. We have enough of that. And I've also made the point that it looks like the way that RFK Jr. is running as president is a continuation, not only to how his uncle ran in those how President John F. Kennedy, was in those first 1,000 days. And definitely, I believe John F. Kennedy would have won a second term. And RFK Sr. was on his way too, before he was killed in California, where RFK Jr. lives now. So it's really, really interesting to see. But the big thing for me is how the Democrats are attacking RFK Jr. It's just, when what they're attacking him for, and how they're going after him, and how they're trying to censor him, right? When I thought that's what the other side did. I thought that's what the Republicans did. Not recently, but when I was growing up, I always thought the Democrats were the good guys and the Republicans are the bad guys. Somehow I found Ron Paul, and that changed everything. And then it kind of tottered, and then we had Trump, and I've never seen Trump as a quote unquote Republican. If anybody is a rhino, it is Donald Trump. And if anybody is a dino, I mean, I used to think up until recently that was Kennedy, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, and it's all party line stuff. It doesn't really matter. In the end, what matters is what these two guys say. What does Kennedy say? And what is he going to do? What is his past history? What has Kennedy done? And what has President Trump done? What they say and how they are treated is another thing that is very interesting too, because the similarities of how the media treats Kennedy and Trump is just crazy. There's so many similarities of how they treat them. And now you have these conservative, quote unquote conservative, whatever that means, talk show hosts who are giving Kennedy a platform. And this is a very good thing. And then you have some of these Democrats who don't want to give Kennedy a platform. They don't want him talking about it because they don't want him talking about the vaccines. They don't want him talking about COVID. They don't want him talking about the alternatives to the vaccines or anything that may work outside of what Dr. Fauci and what some others really want us to do and take. A lot of the Hannity video is focused on the vaccines. It is focused on COVID, how the lockdowns were bad, that we should not have locked down healthy people. You know, lock down the elderly, lock down the sick. You lock down the people who are sick, but you don't lock down the whole country. And then he makes the argument that these lockdowns killed a lot of people and made a lot of things worse. And we look at the stats and the numbers of, crime, sexual abuse, child abuse, and, the suicide rates and the businesses that were closing and the economy, et cetera, et cetera. He makes a good argument, and it's an argument that just needs to be heard, whether we agree with it or whether we don't. And it's crazy because it's the Republican side that is giving Kennedy a voice here as a presidential candidate. The cable companies, the news media companies cannot censor him unless it's on something like this, on a digital platform, because it's not actually a regulated platform. They are still trying to, but now they have also had issues with that too, because they got caught. The Biden administration got caught trying to censor people, trying to force the big tech companies to do their will. Now, like I said, what Kennedy said in the past is that, look, these companies, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they have the right as a private company to censor whoever they want to, if they want to. But the government does not have the right to pressure these companies to censor. And that is the big thing. So I always hear that, well, YouTube doesn't like what you say. They can censor you. But it's not like YouTube hasn't always liked what I said. YouTube didn't have a problem with the stuff that I was saying, the stuff that I was posting, and a lot of other people who have higher numbers. It's the same thing. YouTube didn't care what they were saying. And then all of a sudden YouTube cares. YouTube is being pressured. Facebook is being pressured. The social media companies are being pressured by the government to censor us. That is the real problem here. If the company wants to censor it because they want to, that's fine. They feel that they can censor us because they will not be held liable, because that's what the government tells them. And if they don't have that shield, then I can sue them for it, for free speech. But because they feel like they have that shield, it's very, very hard for us regular people to try to sue these big tech companies for violating our freedom of speech. And so that is really the big issue. And what is the answer? To regulate, to have the government, the same government that wants to censor us, regulate these companies? I don't know. But if YouTube cannot be held liable for it, if I can't sue them, if they don't have to worry about me suing them, then what do they care? Why not give in to what the government says? And if the government is going to make it beneficial for them to censor us, they're going to. And if the government is pressuring these companies like Twitter, or now the X, it's now they changed their logo. If the government is pressuring them and punishing them, then that's wrong. That's wrong. That's not right. That's not what the government is there for. And RFK makes some great points about that, about the executive orders that he will do to stop the weaponization. And he even says it here. So I was frantically writing notes here. He says he will make an executive order to ending the weaponization of our agencies for political purposes. So even though they say, well, yeah, the speech, free speech, well, you can't shout fire in a, and that's a violation of free speech. We're talking about political free speech, right? And the medical free speech, I think, is also a big deal too. It's like saying we can't make up our own mind. Like we need the government to tell us what is medically okay and what isn't, right? And we've been down that road, and they've been given chances, and it's not working, and it's not accurate. And what they do is they only let certain things in, and they don't want to let other trials in. And they say, well, we don't want to be liable, right? We don't want to have the right to try, and then you try this thing and then you die. But at the same time, they're telling us take this shot, and if you die, it's not our fault, and it's not tied to the shot that you took. So they don't have any liability either way. So it's just nuts. It really is. And the censorship is just so outrageous. I mean, this is my third channel here, and I lost a lot of videos from my first channel that had nothing to do with any of the stuff that I'm talking about here. But that's just life. And if I lose this channel too, then that's fine. I'll just create another channel and just keep going on. And because this is just not right. And a big thing that RFK Jr. is running on is censorship. One of the first reasons why he even thought that it may be a good idea to run as the president is because of the censorship, and that he could actually, there's a loophole around some of the censorship just because he is running as a presidential candidate. And now even those loopholes are now being questioned, and he's definitely going to fight that. He is a lawyer, an environmentalist lawyer, who has sued a lot of these government agencies. If you have not read The Real Anthony Fauci, please do. If you have not seen the movie, please go to, let me see if I can share this here too. If you go to The Real Anthony Fauci, The Real Anthony Fauci Movie.com, for free, you can watch all 4 parts of this. The first part is awesome. The second part, I haven't finished that one. But there's 4 parts here, right? YouTube is not going to allow this to be played there. And a lot of other places aren't either, but the information is really, really good. I mean, it changes your view. It's like 911. It's like John F. K's murder. It's probably like so many other things, Waco and Ruby Ridge, and we're just getting one side of it. And then here comes somebody and says, well, let's look at this side of it too. And what's wrong with that? And if they're wrong, then we should be able to prove that they are wrong. There shouldn't be this big censorship push, especially by the government. Just say, look, these guys are crazy. They don't know what they're talking about, and here's why. And that's all that RFK Jr. is saying. Trump will just say what he wants to say and brush those haters off, pretty much. RFK Jr. will try to engage those people. In the Senate hearing, you could see that he was trying to engage his fellow Democrats and say, look, if I got this wrong, let's talk about it. They didn't want to talk about it. They would ask him a question, and then they would not give him time to answer because they didn't want the answer. And I've seen this on both sides. I've seen the Republicans play the same tactic, but really, since 2016, it's just like we're in a parallel world. Like the world, everything just kind of flipped. What the Republicans did, the Republicans flipped their script, the Democrats took their script. It's so nuts. But in the middle, it's all of us good people who don't care about the party lines, who just want to see our country do the best that we possibly can, that want as much opportunity for our children and our children's children. We need the right to try different things. There are medical cures out there. There are things out there that can work. And you know what, man? If somebody is willing to take that risk and say, you know what, I'm going to try this. And if this works, great. If it doesn't cure my cancer, then, okay, then that was my choice. But give them the information to make that choice, right? I mean, even when my wife and I had our first daughter, it was a lot worse, where they were really trying to pressure us to get all these shots, to get all of these things for our daughter. It's like, no, we're not doing that. With the second daughter, they tried to really scare me into it, right? And they try to make you feel bad, and they play so many different tricks to get you to comply with these things. And RFK Jr. even said, why would you need to give a 2-day-old baby a Hep C shot, or all of these shots that they need? I think it was a vitamin K shot they wanted to get. It's like, we've been doing this for thousands of years without any of these shots and everything. You know what? And I'm willing to take my chances, and that's on me, right? That's on me as a parent. That's my responsibility. And so it comes down to those things. But medical freedom is just seems like it's a big issue, and it's tied into the censorship. It's tied into these people like Anthony Fauci that only wants you to buy their product, and they know how to get rid of their competition. Just ask Joe Rogan, right? He took something that helped him, and all of a sudden he's being accused of being a half horse, half man. It's just nuts. It is nuts. Catherine says here, they want us to risk a job. Exactly, but we can't risk a possible. Right. Thank you. Very well said, because they want to have it both ways, and they can't. I mean, it's just not right. It's not right. And if we take their risk, if they say, hey, you need to do this, you need to take this shot, you're going to save lives, there's no liability towards them. I mean, that to me is what really, it's like, well, if you believed in it, then you would say, you know what, if you take this is like the people who say a 30-day trial, no risk. Hey, if I'm going to give you this product, if it doesn't work, you're going to get your money back. Right? These companies aren't saying, they're saying, hey, take it. You need to take it. This is the greatest thing. You take it, something happens, and they're like, had nothing to do with us. Right? It's craziness. And my daughter's going through that with her child. Yeah. What the Hep B? Yeah, Hep B. Yeah, I forget exactly what it was, but RFK Jr. was also saying there's like 72 vaccinations that they want to give to our kids. 72. And he says all his kids are fully vaccinated. They didn't have that many vaccinations. He didn't have that many vaccinations. And when he had his speech problem, and he, started saying, oh, okay, well, could this be tied in? That's when he stopped getting his flu shot. He said he's fully vaccinated except for the COVID shot. He has not gotten the COVID shot. And he probably hasn't gotten COVID either. So it's just really nuts. There's no medical freedom here, and there needs to be. People need the right to try. And that's what I did like that about Trump, is once he started bringing up all of these alternatives to Pfizer, to all these other things, it was like, that's really when they really went after him. It's like, well, you need to put your mask on. Even though you have the same people, Anthony Fauci, the World Health Organization, for years were saying, do not wear masks. They are not good. And then all of a sudden they flipped that script too. I did a series on a book that I may incorporate into this one, and called The Invisible Enemy. And episode number 16 or 17 finally got taken down, because all I did was say, look, the World Health Organization in the past said this. They said masks were not good. And then later they changed their mind. That's all I said. That's all it took. So who knows what's going to happen with this video. But like I said, whatever happens with it, it's all in God's hands. Catherine says the Hep B is for sexually transmitted diseases. Why does an infant need it? Exactly. Why would they need that? Why would they ever need that? It does not make any sense. They wanted us to get the vitamin K shot, I think it was, because something with the brain or something like that. And California is just crazy. It's just crazy. And they really want to what they're trying to do now is to say the medical exemptions based on your Christianity, they're trying to get rid of all of that too. And they're trying to penalize you if you don't take those shots. But at the same time, when people die suddenly and drop dead who have conveniently taken the shot, they don't even want to talk about the fact, that there may be some tie there, right? They have all this medical knowledge, but no proof to these things. It's crazy. Mass are litter in the ocean. I believe it. The clotting. Okay, the clot. Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to tell us, and we're like, no, we're not gonna do that, and everything worked out fine. And that was our choice. And if people want to do that, that's fine. I didn't appreciate being pressured, or they tried to pressure me into that, and tried to pressure us into taking some of those things, and to the point where one of us told us that our daughter had a hole in her heart, and 2 months later we go to a real doctor. I'm like, no, it's fine. Now, from what I hear is that sometimes babies are born with a little hole in their heart and then it just heals on its own. It can cover up on its own, whatever. So, but I know they were trying to tie that, whatever that was, with trying to punish us for not taking their shots, giving the kids the shots and everything. So crazy. Catherine says vitamin K shots help the infant clot. The umbilicus, however, their little bodies will make the vitamin K within a short period of time after birth. And maybe that's what happened. So maybe it's just natural. So he says it is normal to have a small hole in the heart. Yeah, and they were trying to just they were trying to push that, and like that was going to change our mind. It wasn't going to change our mind. It says that has nothing to do with the vaccines. That's right. That's right. Yep. And boy, I'm surprised this is still even live. All this talking about all this stuff here, but it's a very important issue, and it's a sensitive topic. It's a sensitive subject, and it's something that you see some of these Democrat and probably some of the Republican hosts too. Like they get really upset when RFK talks about this because he'll back it up with facts. He'll back it up with stats. He'll back it up with science. And they keep saying, trust the science. He's like, here is what the science says. They did these studies. This is what these scientific studies said from all of these different departments, including the National Institution of Health too. And it's like, these are what their studies say. And you still want to go down this route, and they still want to challenge him, and they still call him some anti-vaxxer when he's vaxxed and his family is all vaxxed. I mean, it's nuts. It's really, really nuts. So during the RFK town hall meeting that just happened maybe about an hour ago, and I was just so fired up, I had to go and quickly come on here and talk about it, just share some notes. And Sean Hannity from the start says we're not going to shut down Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which is what Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s own party is trying to do that. And when you say the own party, it's kind of like, well, it's not really the party. It's just some people that think that they run the Democrat Party, people that are pro Biden that want to make sure that Biden gets in there. And I don't even know how that's even possible. That's just craziness to think that Joe Biden is going to run against President Trump. It's going to be nuts. Sean Hannity also said that today's Democratic Party is about, quote, compliance. And then he asked RFK Jr. about his thoughts about challenging a sitting U.S. president which is exactly what his dad did. Robert F. Kennedy Sr. was challenging a sitting U.S. president in Lyndon B. Johnson. And we know how all that worked out for him. This happened in New York City, this town hall. They call it a town hall. It's not really a town hall. When I think of a town hall, I think of a presidential candidate there and the people in the audience asking questions. This is now the third time that Sean Hannity has pulled this trick. This is not a town hall. He did this twice with President Trump, where in the first town hall that Sean Hannity did with President Trump, he let one person, maybe two people in the audience ask questions. That was it. In the second town hall with Trump, nobody got to ask any questions. Why are you calling this a town hall? It's not a town hall. And with RFK Jr., it was the same thing. I want to hear questions from the audience asking RFK Jr. questions. This is the one thing that I can say that was better about the town hall that CNN did. The CNN town hall with Donald Trump, they had all these people asking Donald Trump questions. That's what I want with RFK Jr. It's exactly what I want. Not what I mean, and there was nothing wrong with the interview. It was a great interview. I really enjoyed the interview Sean Hannity did with RFK Jr. I thought he asked some great questions too, and we got a lot of great knowledge from that 1 hour show, 40 minutes, 50 minutes with the commercial breaks and all that stuff. But it was not a town hall. So to try to see if I can read my own handwriting. So RFK says, his job over the past 40 years has been to sue the government agencies for corruption, for their government corruption. He sued Donald Trump before and said that it was very cordial with Donald Trump. It was a very cordial suing because Donald Trump wanted to build a golf course in New York City next to a reservoir. And RFK Jr. sued him, and they did not allow Donald Trump to build that golf course there. This is years ago, way back when. And he says, but he says Donald Trump didn't take it personally. It's just business. RFK Jr. also talked about his wife. It says that his wife grew up poor until she got a break from Larry David, and ended up on a popular TV show called Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I don't like. It's kind of a nasty show. I watched the first 2 episodes of it. It's just not my cup of tea. But if you don't know who Larry David is, he is the co-creator of the Seinfeld show. And the character on Seinfeld, which is one of my favorite shows, George Costanza, is pretty much Larry David. That's based on Larry David. So, but he talks about that. He talks about, being poor. He says that his wife would talk about being poor makes you feel depressed. And he says, it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. And that is a very, very sad feeling. How many poor people out there, it's like they're never going to get one leg up. They're never going to, understand what it's like to live a comfortable life, not even a rich or a super rich, but just a comfortable life. And can you imagine being poor day to day, just living on the street, or just kind of, knowing not knowing where you're going to get your next meal, and knowing if you lose your job, if you don't have this next paycheck coming in, you're going to be homeless. What a sad, depressing thing to go through. And so Kennedy always talks about the poor people. It always talks about that stuff and just how sad it is. And he says cushy, they went on to talk about socialism, and he talks about the cushy socialism for the super rich, because the super rich and the Democrats, they want to talk about socialism, how socialism is great and it's cushy at the top. But then he talks about capitalism too, and says for capitalism, it's brutal for the people, for the super poor. So here you have 2 systems, what he's saying, the socialism and the capitalism. And it's just a really bad system. It seems like both of them, either or. talks about the vaccine talk and how we were all lied to, and what they told us about the vaccinations was, a lot of that turned out not to be true. He says you quarantine the sick and you protect the vulnerable. He says that during the COVID, the actual the unemployment is what killed a lot of people because of the unemployment, and that's really, really sad. That's really sad. People who could not get, because even if you think, well, if the medical stuff is all great, even if they could not get to it, they could not get medical help. And we're not just talking about people who couldn't get the vax or anything like that. We're talking about the people who could not get the surgeries that they needed because the hospitals were only focused on the vaccinations, right? How many loved ones? I had a loved one that we didn't get to say goodbye to. I didn't get to say goodbye for several reasons. Thankfully, we had a digital way that I could. But there's a lot of people who did not get to say goodbye to their family because the hospitals wouldn't let them. You either had to be jabbed, you had to wear a mask, et cetera, et cetera. They would only let one or two people in at the same time. All of that stuff. And a lot of people just never got to say bye. And that's sad. And you can't get that back. And for those people to learn that the risk was not as bad as they were telling us, that's going to be frustrating. That's a very hard thing to take, to accept. And especially for people who are pro-vaccine, right? Just vaccine, we all get vaccine. We're all in this together, the herd mentality thing that we have heard. I'm not going to go too much longer. I've been ranting a lot. What else? Let's see. Hannity asked what he would have done differently if he was the president during the COVID. And he says, quote, I would have done everything differently. He says you can use the actual internet to get to link to the doctors, to link to these people, to link to HCQ, right? Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. I can never say that name correctly. He says there's a list of about 20 of these different drugs that were out there that were proven, that were showing to be helpful to fight against COVID. All of that stuff got wiped out, right? He mentioned something that happened in Africa, Kenya maybe, where like every Sunday they were getting this shot that would help them. Once all of this happened, I think it had hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin, had one of those. It was a shot that they were getting every week, and then after this, all of a sudden, all of that's gone, right? And where, why, how, why? And so it's just, when you talk about alternative medicines, people have been talking about this for years and years. There's alternative things. You don't just have to drug people up. There's natural things. There was that one doctor, Dr. Erickson, who was talking about, look, one of the things to combat this is to be out in the sunlight, to be in the dirt. And but they were telling us to stay home. To stay home, to get out of the light, to stay in the darkness. And sunlight, vitamin D turned out to be, one of the things that was really supposed to be good for us. And that doctor, I hope he comes out at some point. Doctor in I want to say Fresno, but that's not right. But I hope he comes out someday and kind of talks more about that. I tried playing that video and it got banned on YouTube. It's still on Rumble. I believe it's Dan Erickson, and he's a doctor, one of the first early doctors that came out and kind of challenged the COVID, how challenged the whole lockdown and that this is bad for our health. He laid out exactly what was going to happen with abused children, who weren't in school now, being forced into a lockdown situation with their abusers, people who already had domestic violence issues, people who lost their job because of COVID. My hours got cut. I can only imagine what other people went through, losing their job. We don't have the job. The restaurants closed down. Those people lost all of their jobs. You have all these people out. All they could do was riot and loot and pillage and plunder. It was just crazy in California. It was really, really crazy. And I saw stuff even in my hometown of Castro Valley that I'd never seen. Never seen riots like that. You would get the whole Oakland riots. You'd get them, certain times for certain things, every holidays, stuff like that. But this was just nuts. It was complete chaos, and it was allowed to happen. The police scared to pull people over because they don't want to get COVID. The lines, standing 6 feet from people. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I could go on and on. Okay, I'm wrapping this up here. Let's see. So I just played that clip about Biden there, and I think I'm going to end this right about there. He does talk about Russia and Ukraine, and I'll get into more of that next time, but we'll see if this one even makes it up. I don't know. We'll see how long it stays up. So thank you, everybody. God bless you, Catherine. And I will be back soon. I got 5 more days before I can go live on my other channel. I don't like to do these live things here on this channel. This channel is just supposed to be clips of RFK, of Kennedy, Tucker Carlson, things like that, without my opinions. But I just want to get this out here, record this live, and then I will move this over to my other channel once the ban is over. God bless you all. Stay safe. Do the right thing. Be good people. And don't forget, there are good people out there. We can be one of them. God bless you all.